Today we will hold a talk show with the Spanish delegation, with the theme of climate change and the role of delegation in regional change.
Aquí la tenemos con la delegación española. How are you all?
Well, today we're going to discuss the climate change in Spain. Reporting from the UN official website, the framework of climate change, UNPCC defines climate change are being directly or indirectly caused by human activity in a way alters the composition of the global atmosphere and natural climate variability at comparable period of time.
This has certainly brought serious social, economic, and environmental costs, and over the years Spain has experienced considerable climate change. 7 of Spain's 10 hottest years have occurred the last decade. Apart from global warming, the concentration of greenhouse gases has also reached its highest record in history, despite the reduction in emissions and the COVID-19 pandemic.
Is it real like this?
Well, who do you think was the first to discover this and when?
Actually, the scientific discovery of climate change has occurred about 300 years BC, by when Aristotle studied names of theopartus. It is recognized by American Institute of Physics.
Can you tell us about climate change incident?
Alright, gracias. In the last 2 centuries, the phenomenon of climate change has occurred several times. The 20th century is thought as beginning of drought on Earth. In this century, there was a global crisis from hot weather in Central Europe, Western Russia, and Middle and Central America. In 21 centuries, in 2040, the World of Meteorological Organization has reported that it was a hottest year. The clean water crisis, the rising sea level, and also rising prices of basic necessities are impact climate change. Alright, thank you.
Has climate change ever occurred in Spain?
Yes, climate change just happened in Spain last year. In a year marked by extreme weather event and heat wave, Spain's average temperature hit 14.8 degrees Celsius according to the ministry. The temperature was about 1.7 degrees hotter than the pre-industrial average, and above the 1.5 degrees target for the world set out in the Paris Agreement. About 76% of that increase occurred in the last 60 years.
You mentioned several times about global warming. Actually, what is the position of global warming in the climate change?
The term climate change is often used interchangeably with the term global warming, even though the phenomenon of global warming is only part of climate change, because the climate parameter is not only temperature, but there are other related parameters such as precipitation, flood condition, wind, and solar radiation.
And what is the role of the younger generation as agent of change in dealing with the climate change issues?
Young people can contribute in climate change.
How can Spanish people,
As individuals,
especially
they can
the younger
contribute
generation, to
in all
control climate change
sectors,
and
although in
grow
small
to
piece.
mainstream?
But if accumulated, they can have an impact on controlling climate change.
How can Spanish people, especially the younger generation, to control climate change and grow to remain stable?
As we know, Spain is located between the Atlantics and the tropics, so Spain is experiencing a climate change and warming faster than the rest of the planet. Therefore, they made plans to control climate change, including first, undertaking a 10-year, $53 billion public investment plan that will see Spain work to get 74% of its electricity from renewables such as solar, and wind by 2030 and 100% by 2050. And second, severed a $33.1 billion a fuel fossil costs and banned a new license for fossil fuel drilling and fracking wells. And last, Barcelona also expanded Greenland. The city of Barcelona in Spain is exemplary in its efforts to expand Greenland. Now, all open land, including the roof of the building, is strived to be green so that oxygen supply increases and the air temperature is more comfortable. Biodiversity corridors have also been built around the city, so the flora and fauna will be preserved again.
Who is representative of Spain charged with international negotiation of climate change?
In Spain, the Directorate General of Climate Change Office of Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Environment is the national focal point for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change.
Why are climate change faster than other countries in Spain? And what are the effects of such change?
Spain lies between the Atlantic and the tropics, and Spain is experiencing in climate change and warming that is faster than other parts of land. The combination of temperature rise and increase could result in large tracts of land in Spain and could have a devastating effect on agriculture.
And what is the World Climate Change Commitment?
Green Climate Fund or GCF groups have begun to organize its commitments to climate change issues. By 2020, a group of developed countries is agreeing to mobilize funds of $100 billion annually to address the effect of climate change.
What's GCP?
As a result, the GCF has been established within the framework of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change (UNFCCC) as an effort to build financial mechanisms to assist developing countries in their adaptation and mitigation practice to combat the effect of the climate change.
The 10 largest contributor countries from 40 developed and developing countries that have committed to provide funding throughout 2014 and 2020. The countries include are the United States, Japan, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Canada, Norway, Australia, and Spain. The United States (US) became the largest contributor with a value of 3 billion United States, followed by Japan with a value of 1.5 billion United States dollar.
Funding was unbanned not only from developed countries from NFCC members, but CGFC also collected funds from public, non-public, and alternative resources. Contributions from some of these parties can be made from grants, capital, or loans. This is step forward to presenting the harmful effect of climate change that we are worsening each year.
After the information of climate change is given, it is hoped to raise the younger generation awareness of climate change and to take part in climate control actions.
Because in the future, young generations are main character in tackling climate change.
Climate change is not just about carbon dioxide levels and melting polar ice caps.
It is about our public health and protecting our earth for future generations.
If you can do great thing, do small thing in a great way.
Save our earth.
Preserve the nature.
We
young and we can.